What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Binge Empire and our coverage of FX and Hulu's Alien Earth. So this is going to be episode 6, The Fly, and we are, wow, I was going to do a math problem in my head. What, 80%? No? 75? Something like that. Through the season, which
75
is kind
sounds
of
right.
crazy. Yeah, 75 I think is the correct math. I bought myself some time there by just saying more words. But I'm just loving this show. I'm just going to say it out there. It is like an experience. I feel like each episode to just watch. I love watching Tuesday nights, turn all the lights out, just the TV on. The sound design is fantastic. We've talked a lot on end about the cinematography, Paul. I know we got into a lot of that last week. And I'm just excited to talk about it. You know, it's fun to see how much our Discord too is popping off. Shameless plug at the top here. If you've been enjoying the coverage and you want to join more of the conversation, bingetowntv.com/Discord. We have a lot of big Alien fans in there, and it's really interesting to just hear them talk about it. We're talking about all the episodes live as they're happening, and we're going to be doing that for the next, we'll call it an hour, all about episode 6, The Fly. And I guess I'll just pass it to Luke quickly because you missed our last recording, so we'll just give you the front stage at this moment.
I won't say much because you guys crushed that podcast. I had a joy listening to you guys break it down. It was the iconic feeling that alien movies give you. It feels like this show is so good. It has a little bit of everything for everyone. And I thought that episode was amazing. I don't know if I would say it's my favorite, but maybe it actually was after hearing you guys talk about it. But this episode is also amazing. I'm really excited to break down what happened here and also just to talk about our Discord reactions. Like everybody is loving this show, and I too am loving the hell out of this show. And even Deadhead Dan and Delco Nick, they were live tweeting as they're watching it, throwing screenshots in. So avoid the Discord if you're not caught up, I would say, but once you are, like, it's the place to be. I think that I love seeing those reactions, and I truly agree with them. I think that this show is awesome. I think it's so fun to watch, and the fact that even Paul can enjoy it, having never seen an alien movie, says a lot about it. And I just hope that we keep the quality up and we land this ship for the next couple episodes.
Nice, land the ship, which they did not. But yeah, this show has been phenomenal. Obviously it's a horror show, but the anticipation that it is able to build, like we're just rolling the snowball up the hill with all these lab accidents, and we're just ready to push it over, there will be such a domino effect, and nobody knows what's going to happen because there's too many variables, right? Like, and these creatures and these specimens are just so unpredictable with what they will do, and they always have like a new hidden ability that everybody's poison, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Everybody's got a hidden little poison thing in these creatures. But I absolutely loved it. We got a lot of the characters this episode. Some movement, not a whole lot, a lot of setup, but again, absolutely loved it. And I think it had one of the biggest scenes of just powerhouse feeling when we should just jump right into it. The Yutani and Prodigy meeting between Cavalier
Electric.
and Yutani. It was just like the big dogs are sitting down and whipping their dicks out is what it felt like.
And you got to even loop in the elevator scene too after with Morrow and Kirsch. Like, this sequence of events had me on the edge of my seat. I thought it was so damn good. I love Yutani as a character, and I think Boyd Cavalier did better than my expectations here. Like, he controlled this room. He proved that he is like a true villain more than he's already has in this scene. Like, just the way he was talking about the quarantine, just what he's going to do with all the specimens, and just how he controlled that conversation was amazing. I just thought that this was the best scene of the episode.
It's also so funny to think that $10 billion is nothing. It means absolutely nothing to him. It's just so crazy when they start throwing out the trillions and things like that. I don't know what I maybe anticipated out of this meeting, but I think I walked away slightly shocked at how poorly Yutani came off. I can't tell if it was on purpose to like get Cavalier out there and like whatever to have this conversation. And I don't know. It just felt like it was such a face plant by Yutani that it almost feels like there has to be more of an ulterior motive, like something with Morrow, just maybe like, going through the motions of the like arbitration path to like prove to themselves that they went through it, so that when they go through with the Morrow plan, which is to infiltrate and do all that stuff, then like, they won't, I don't think they have a conscience anyway. I don't think they care about anything other than themselves and money, but it just felt like it was so obviously that she just kept stepping on every rake that was in the room.
Yeah, and it was interesting too because Cavalier just wasn't going through any of the etiquette whatsoever, but was still winning the conversation. And like you said, Kyle, like Yutani felt like she should be more prepared because she even said to Mara at the end of last episode, that's what the lawyers are for. I didn't see a single lawyer there besides the mediator, and that was just a representative for the Big Five government. So I was gonna ask you guys, do you think she really would have paid that 50 billion if Cavalier gave it back? Or do you think if this was all just a setup and a distraction for Mara to actually do his thing?
I think Mara was just the main plan, and this was a potential out for having to cause violence. Like if he was going to go along with the ploy, that's why I don't hold it against Yutani, because I think at the end of the day, she was going to let Morrow do whatever he wanted to. And she even says that after he walks out, like, what's the strategy? What do you think we should do? And he says we should destabilize everything, which that's going to be just so much fun to watch that happen. And I don't think she thought that the money was going to buy back the biological species right there.
Yeah. I mean, because he says it, and hey, whatever, it could be posturing, but I think they both know, because they're both at that level of power, influence, riches, that 10 billion is literally nothing. And when you have $1 trillion, what is more money? Like, what could you possibly need $10 billion more for? So I would love it if it's kind of a continuation of the commentary on Boy himself, of just this super overconfident upstart that, like, Yutani theoretically has been in this type of game her entire life. She's watched her grandmother go through the company. I mean, we know the company is older even probably than her grandmother too. It's been around. It must have been around for a hot minute at this point. So it kind of feels like the old guard that kind of knows the ins and the outs of everything is like kind of like tempting Boy into this trap of like making him feel good, making him feel like he won. He feels like he's got the upper hand. Like, you feel like he can do no wrong. And then they're actually going to, pull the real punch of what they were kind of planning the whole time. I could totally see that being the case.
I mean, if they're playing into Cavalier's hubris, it's totally working, because he's in the ship plane pilot. He's got his arms out, like celebrating. At one point, I think he like screams woo or something like that, because he's like, 50 billion. And did you guys, like, was it weird to you when Yutani's like, if you want money, I'll give you money? And he kind of freaks out. He's like, it's not about money. Like, I have money, like, don't worry. But he kind of loses composure there for a second. So is he actually obsessed with money, or was that just him trying to say, like, I don't like when you like try to buy me out, or I don't like that you're trying to belittle me or something like that? Because it almost seemed like
that would just go against everything we've seen from him about he wants to have a conversation with God. He wants to create the future. All of that is way more important thematically to him as a character, where it would kind of go against everything if he really did care about the money. I just think that it was the first attempt of Yutani to steer away from Boy Cavalier's plan in that meeting. And one of the things that I picked up from this conversation that's just cool world building that I really loved that they just said was he relies everything on the quarantine plan, right? Like that is enough to that it should be able to convince the 5 mediator that was there. And that's a great plan because it's a true thing. But he also starts to cite the war crimes, or I forget what he calls it, like how many crimes that it was breaking for even attempting to bring the species, the invasive species, onto Earth. And that's when she says, Yutani, that is, great line, where she says the actual plan was to have all of them brought and studied in an off-world facility. And I love that little bit of world building because we're probably never going to see that spot, but it's cool to know that she also came prepared with all of these ideas in the meeting. But at the end of the day, I think she was just trying to get the best shortcut, which would have been paying him off. And I don't think she really believed that he would fall for that. And I don't think that he ever would have accepted the money.
I wonder what the world is for the off-world. It's not the moon.
It could just be like a huge ship, right? I don't know. I feel like maybe.
Yes, theoretically, yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
And that seems like the safest option given everything we know about the Alien franchise.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I don't even know if it was true or if she was just using that as an excuse, but it worked
Yeah.
either way.
Yeah,
But-
it probably wasn't true. They were going to do all that shit on Earth. They don't care.
And yeah, so meeting did not go the way Utani wanted. Cavalier walks out all happy, and she's basically like, "Hey, Morrow, where are we with our plan?" And he says he recommends destabilizing the facility and take advantage of the chaos because that is exactly what happened on the ship.
Yeah, it's just like so funny that they're so greedy. You know what I mean? Like they can't even stomach the idea of waiting the 6 weeks. And I understand the whole like, corporate competition and at 6 weeks is a long time for Boy Cavalier to get whatever leg up would get out of it. But it's just like, let's totally risk so much in terms of like innocent bystander. It's like the potential negative consequences of this are so unbelievably high. And it's just, there's no way that they care.
All right, and we have to talk about this scene too right after. This is the Morrow and Kirsch in the elevator scene. This is almost bigger dogs in a tinier space. This was absolute comedy too. This was so funny.
Can I just say that I don't know if it's a hot take or not, but I think Timothy Oliphant is the best actor on the show. I mean, he probably is the most A-list, if he's a B-list, whatever he is. He's the most well-known, but his performance is the best. Like I'm glued every time he's on the screen. You never really know what's going on in his mind because of just the fact that he is a synthetic and just what he's doing to both undermine and help Boy Cavalier is so interesting. And what this was just poking and prodding of Morrow. And I thought it was amazing. He starts bringing up the idea about his child. Like he's done his research on Morrow as a person. I think he pokes at him about that. They both have their back and forths and they're just two evil legends because you can't really morally root for either of them. And at the same time, I want both of them to succeed just because they're just pure entertainment and they're both amazing characters.
It's kind of interesting, Morrow's very direct taunt at the end. I thought his choice of words was purposeful. I mean, he's choosing all of his words purposefully, but I'll see you soon, old machine or whatever he ends up calling him, felt like, are we giving the game away on purpose? Here, it felt like that was basically giving him a hint, like, we're coming, big dog. Don't worry about that. And then does that maybe inform the way that Kirsch acts at the end of the episode? Kirsch has kind of already been slightly going down like a road that feels a little bit divergent of Boy. And we've talked about that, I believe, over all of these episodes, but just another interesting wrinkle to all of this.
Well, that led
I would
to
agree.
the security being ramped up on the island, no?
Yeah, I mean, that's totally fair. I think with Kirsch specifically, with the way he acts and like responds to things, I don't know if I just can't tell. I feel like there's something there. I just don't know what it is. It could be, it could be either direction. And I think I totally agree with the Timmy Oliphant point. Timmy, I'm calling him Timmy now. We're on a first name Timmy basis. But I think him, Morrow, I would say Boy, Cavalier, and then honestly Smee. I think that Smee is such a good actor. It's so funny to watch him be a kid. So I think those four for me take the cake.
I was gonna make a comment about I thought it was weird how Morrow was like, you know what I like about killing synths? Like he made it sound like he was like a soldier instead of security. But then I realized or remembered that great grandma Utani literally said he was one of the fiercest people she's ever seen. So I'm sure he did a lot of dirty shit after he hooked her up or she hooked him up with the arm. So I doubt we'll get that piece of the backstory, but he sounds more and more like a mercenary than I thought. He was like a scientist security guy, but he's a killer.
He's a bad mamma jamma, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
There is one theory that came from our Discord from Jakota that I want to bring up that's related to Kirsch, and I think this is a good spot for me to just bounce it off you guys. I'm not sure if you read it yet, but they were just saying that even more than the rest of the season, specifically in this episode, it feels the most possible that what if Kirsch is the original hybrid and not actually a synth, and he was based on Boy Cavalier's personality, so he has all this hubris, which is kind of coming out a lot right now in this episode. And if you look back in hindsight, like a lot of the patterns that Kirsch has been doing do feel hubris like, right? Is there any weight there, or do you think that's reaching too much? Because they do make a huge deal that Wendy is the original, but I would love for the twist that Kirsch is actually the original, because he doesn't act so robotic all the time, and he does seem to have a little bit of a personality.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of mention it a lot in this episode specifically about Kirsch being a synth.
Mhm.
You know, and it could it be that they're mentioning it so much to bury the actual lead? I could totally believe that. I think that that would totally work for me. It would be interesting too. I mean, you know, Boy has the whole voiceover as he's maybe recording an audiobook version of Peter Pan because he has the microphone in front of him, which I thought was interesting. And I do not in any way will pretend that I know anything about Peter Pan. So I might be completely butchering all of this, but just like the way he's talking about like Wendy wanting to like keep, you know, Neverland the way it is, and then like seeing all of the boys and things like that. Like it could be an interesting twist of like we're misinterpreting his character in that way.
Yeah.
Of where like he's trying to actually keep Neverland, you know, like clean and without them.
Yeah, it's an interesting theory that Kirsch could be a hybrid because he always talks about like, oh, like your guys' emotions, like you let your emotions take over you. That's your issue. Like Wendy even talks about it the end of this episode when she's talking to Dame Sylvia and is saying like, oh, Kirsch says we can, you know, turn our emotions off. So is it like one of the scenarios where the first thing he's judging on others about others is his own biggest insecurity, which is that he is a hybrid and does have emotions and he is trying to hide them down. I didn't think of that until right now. It would definitely be a really cool twist. And I mean, like you said, Kirsch is the best. So if there's more of him on the screen with that, then hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I will say maybe the one thing to push back is I feel like we kind of need a synth character.
Yeah.
Especially given what the first scene is of where, you know, this is all about the battle for the future. And it just kind of feels like we need a synth, you know, if it's really Cyborg versus all hybrids. And then we kind of also have talked before about like the synth technology is kind of the one that ends up prevailing in the sense that it's in the actual Alien movies that happen after this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
We got Mr. Tang. What are you talking about? That's a synth representative there.
I guess that's true. I mean, yeah, that's not to say that there's not any. Obviously, there are some actively behind the scenes in every corner of the world, but
no, I totally agree. That would be like pretending 3 parties are in it the whole time, and it's just 2. So
yeah, and I would much rather pretend there was 3 parties and there be 4 parties. That's way more fun.
Whoa, whoa. All right. Anything on that scene before I jump into the actual meat of the episode? And that's going to be Isaac in the lab. And we're going to connect this right with Arthur in the lab directly after. But Kirsch calls Isaac, says, hey, need you to, you know, be responsible, you know, be an adult. And Isaac, of course, pretends he doesn't see Curly there. What would have gone right if Curly was there? We'll never know. But it's hard to remember that they're kid brains sometimes, even though they're amazing actors. But like when you open the door to a cage to feed them, like what are you expecting here? So it was frustrating, but it was also they kept the anticipation building, and the actual climax, which was, you know, the attack on Isaac, that was still like new and fresh and surprising. So I think they executed everything great here.
Mm-hmm.
They do it to us twice, man. There's just this episode watching some things almost through your fingers because it's just, you know, what's going to happen. And they're just slow rolling it. Like it's so obvious that he's going to make a mistake and it's going to be bad for him, you know, and then the way it works out. And then I know we'll talk about this probably sure right after, but with the whole Arthur thing where he's in there and he's trying to drag them out, and it's just like, oh my god, the door's open, and then the other door's open, and then there's the chittering. I love that that's just the word chittering is always in the captions, and it's just like, oh my god, just drop the other shoe already so I can just feel the feelings that aren't just pure anxiety.
So one of my thoughts is I feel like Curly is letting me down as a character because I really wanted her to follow up on the ambition she had from, at this point, 3 episodes ago. I wanted her to have more of a role, and maybe they will bring her back in with that piece of it because she seemed like she was going to be more important. And Toodles, or Isaac, whatever you want to say, man, he, as a character, he was probably like one of the least important of the Lost Boys, and I love him because he's Jesper from Shadow and Bone. He's amazing in that. But yeah, he was just making mistake after mistake, just trying to prove that he was an adult. But I like how they introduced the flies. I don't think we got much on them before this scene, maybe at all. But this is the 5th alien species that's been mentioned throughout the season, so they needed to highlight it. Crazy that it just spits acid again. I think everything is acid related, which is crazy. But like the whole scene was just well done, and the entire time our Octo sheep over in the corner was biding his time, waiting, learning. I love that thing so much.
They would just have a shot of him staring directly into the camera, like every 5th shot. It would just cycle it in there and slip it in there real quick. And I guess that's just to show us that it is taking it all in. It is learning. I was kind of complaining about when it took over Shmuel on the ship that it couldn't really do anything. You know, it did jump and bite and stuff like that, but it couldn't talk. I mean, maybe it needs more and more time in the body, and maybe it is just getting more and more comfortable in that sheep's body and able to figure out more and more stuff. And will it be able to do anything in that body? I don't know. I assume it's going to jump out into something more mobile, but I love its pupils. They come together to form one big one, and it's just a little troublemaker, dude. Always knows when to tap on the glass.
And let me just comment on something you guys talked about last episode. I also was getting the vibe of what the internet was saying, which was, what the heck was the eye doing in the last episode? Even to the point where our friend Jay sent me like a tweet saying the real hero of the episode for episode 5 was the eye monster. But in hindsight, it was doing exactly what it did here, where it was distracting, trying to be opportunistic about the way to escape. So, I think we could just put that to bed, that there was any empathy or just like morals in this eye monster. It just wants to be free.
Yeah, it doesn't fail to capitalize on opportunities.
Yes, yeah.
Which is dangerous. It'll bide its time. It don't really matter. It only needs to be right 1 out of 100 times.
And I agree with your guys' opinion.
100 out of 100.
It's ending up in Boy Cavalier.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah.
I love.
I can't wait to see that scene. It's gonna be like, yeah.
Well, there is a way that, the end of this scene, I'm sorry. Arthur goes in. We talked about that. He ends up getting the face hugger, which is just absolutely terrifying. Watching Slightly just stone faced on the other side of the door while this guy's literally in hell and figuring everything out and putting it together. But at the very end, Slightly grabs him and brings him into the air vent. So there is another way out of the lab. And I don't know if that will be the access for the rest, because the doors are open, basically all the cages. The only one still caged up is the sheep and the flora, fauna. But who knows?
Wait, did the Xeno get out?
No, I'm sorry. That's still in there as well.
Yeah.
But
the fly just has free. The fly is plural, I guess. Or no, is there only one? It has free. No, there's 2. Yeah, it has free range of the lab at this point. So it is what it is. It's interesting that it seems, I thought heavily implied that it just consumes metal. That seems to be what it quote unquote eats. They were feeding it just a basket of metal. There was like a cheese grater in there. There was like rocks and things like that. It went right after Isaac. We'll use his chosen name. And just went after his face, and it was kind of eating it. It seemed like it was going after Slightly more than it was going after maybe Arthur or anything that we would say is quote unquote, I guess, organic would be the word. So I think it's nice that we have, you know, maybe an antagonist or an enemy, a predator for our synthetic characters. You know, we
Yeah.
saw the Johnsky that hangs and has the little flora thing that comes out.
Yeah.
Terrible description, but people knew what I was talking about. That it kind of ignores Isaac on the ship, you know, because we people assumed because he, well, you know, is a machine, is a robot essentially, and so it's nice that they have something to fear. I'm still curious, and I think people might be as well, unless it was disproven. Of can the eye get after a robot?
I am on the train that if it has an eye, it will pop it out and get in there. But will it be able to take control? I want to say
I-
yes, but
It
I don't
attacked
think so.
Nibs. That was a huge PTSD thing for her.
Yeah,
That's fair. Would it work?
yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
That was. If you asked me a few episodes ago, I would say yes, but now I'm not so sure. But I wanted to because of genius gamma radiation rays or whatever. I don't know. It's the man.
And honestly, not I'm sure a xenomorph would fuck a hybrid up.
I'm sure. Well, any hybrid that's not Wendy.
Yeah, that's fair. And you know what? Honestly, it was funny. Okay, funny's not the word, but with the Arthur thing when he's kind of locked in the lab, if you knew about the face huggers, like what would even be the plan? I was just thinking when he has the phone, I would just like stick the phone in my mouth. Just, like,
Wait,
you know what I mean? Like you can't get in that way, baby. Like I'm sticking the phone in my mouth.
that's
'Cause,
genius.
like, what the hell else could you do at that point? Like you grab a tray and just wait to baseball bat it out of the air. Like he doesn't
No
know
one-
anything about it.
I don't think anyone's ever just covered their mouth. Like,
Yeah.
right.
I've never seen
Like,
that in Aliens.
he doesn't know to play defense, and I'm sure something, you know, it could probably stick that thing through the flesh of your
Yeah.
hands and stuff like that, and probably break the plastic of the phone. But I was just thinking in that moment, like, because I know about the face huggers, like, what would I be doing with the
Mhm.
knowledge? And I think I would just have stuck the phone in my mouth.
It just
and hope
stops.
it works.
Just stops running at you. Like shit. Open that up. That'd be funny. Just pull a Zorro and just stick a knife facing out, and then that way, full defense. But yeah, they are on the loose. Well, only one went out, and then what? There's 4 other eggs. I'm not exactly sure, but could be 3 or 4 other potential Xenos coming out if any humans get in there.
It's worth pointing out that Kirsch is watching all of this go down, and then he specifically lies to Boy Cavalier about everything being okay. So that's playing into the pattern of what he's done in the past, where he's been keeping tabs on slightly, which is, I guess, how we knew more about Morrow than he probably should have. So it all is kind of coming together where he is being very David from Prometheus and Covenant.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, chaos is a ladder. Is that just what he's into?
Yeah.
And that's his
Yeah.
jam. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, he is also in the next scene that we are going to cover because we're just talking about the Hermit and Joe stuff now. So the first scene that he is in, he's talking to Kirsch, and Kirsch is like, "You really think you're going to be able to leave with Wendy at one point?" Which kind of starts this paranoia with Joe, like, "Oh my God, like Marcy may not be safe." So, you know, then he goes to talk to her. She says she doesn't want to leave. We got him dodging slightly real quick while he was drawing a map for his escape. He's talking to his squad while on patrol, hinting at, "Hey, where's the boats? I need to get out of here. How far away are we from the mainland?" Before finally talking to Arthur, who tells him the truth secretly, but gives him the honest answer that he was looking for. So, what's your takes on Joe's this episode?
It's good build up. You know, it feels like it's going to come to, you know, a high adrenaline, high emotion escape attempt, which I'm all in favor for, especially with the way that the show's been. I'm sure they're going to nail it, and it's going to be, you know, I'm going to feel it in my toes. One thing I couldn't just not think about with the whole Arthur and him situation is the way that Arthur just leaves the screens up of the evidence of the trackers and things like that. I don't know if that will come back to haunt them in any way, but yeah, it's not gonna obviously end up as cleanly as that. But I hope that his squad kind of turns. She was not into it by any means whatsoever, Rashidi is kind of just like, yeah, you know what she said. And I hope that they kind of turn and join because he's going to need some help.
Mm-hmm. And Arthur as a character had such a high here, like working for the boys, doing one for the team, and then it turns into the lowest of the low with him being so bad with the lab procedures. But the best thing about Arthur dying is I was pretty concerned that Slightly had to kill Joe at some level, but now he's safe. He's back in the safe zone. I think we're good. And last time we talked, Paul, which would have been 2 podcasts ago, I knew right away as soon as Arthur was telling Dame in the woods that like this is not right, like death flags everywhere. So that he fulfills that. I knew he wasn't making it out, even though I liked Arthur as a character. I hope Dame feels bad about that. But there was a moment where I just loved this line that happened when Kirsch and Joe were talking and why he can't ever take Wendy out. And he says, like, she has the potential to invent faster than light travel, which is so freaking cool that they're projecting out hybrids to get that advanced. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of convincing where if I'm Joe and that's a realistic possibility, you probably need to reevaluate what you're going to do until Arthur shows him that everything's bad. But, you know, it all kind of plays how I think we were expecting it, where it's just going to get more and more panicky for Joe and he has to get Wendy out. And now Wendy's turning against them because of what Dame did. So that's good. It seems like everything's moving in the right direction for them to at least attempt to escape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it feels like Wendy is going to be a big hang up, though. In some way, she's totally going to want to take that xenomorph with them.
Xeno baby.
Which is such a funny occurrence. And I can't even imagine what his reaction to that could be of like, are you fucking kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
we're not taking that thing with us. You are out of your mind.
It's their third sibling, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's got the DNA. I wonder if it like kind of likes him because it
came from his lung.
Yeah, it's born of him.
Yeah.
We've never, I mean, to my knowledge, there's no, like, the chest bursters don't like make their way back to the body and like curl up at night with it that they busted out of.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that weird thing in what is it, Alien 3 where she has like
Ripley and
the kids. So maybe there's some weird things that could happen in that sense. I wouldn't mind that in any way. That might make the escape a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah, I would love that. But Wendy doesn't want to escape. But Luke, that was the first thing I was thinking when I saw Arthur, in the lab was Luke called this, he said Arthur's being too damn logical and it's not going to go along with the plot. So he's got to die, which definitely did. And same exact thoughts about Herman / Joe. He was Slightly target. I was freaking out because, like I said, Joe is the one guy I wanted to make out of this. He is humanity's hope. So I need him to make it out of here. And if he dies, just know I'm going to be mortified. But with the conversation that he has with Wendy, do you think he's going to be able to convince her to leave with him? Or is it just going to be like, okay, you're not Marcy anymore, you're something else? Too early?
The Nibs thing was great for trying to convince her to leave because now she no longer trusts them, that they don't have their best interest. She's probably going to start questioning if they're going to attempt to erase her memories or have in the past. So I could see her flipping the table, but it goes back to what Kyle was saying. Like, she's bringing baby Xeno with them. Like, there's no way that she's getting an attachment to it. She's learning how to speak to it. There is a crazy world where that Xeno listens to her. And like actually is an ally. I don't know how that would play to the general public of like Alien diehard fans. They'll probably hate that, but it could still make for believable TV, especially because like the most wild theory ever that exists about what this show is leading to is that Wendy is I forget what the term is, like the alien goddess or something. Like there's a canon alien goddess that only happens in the comics, and it's a question if she's real or not. Like, does she appear in your minds? But she's basically like a hybrid synthetic thing. And if she's working towards that, she can control the other Xenos. And that would be like my favorite fan fiction way to go with this story. But I doubt they'll get that crazy. But there's so many possibilities. But the number one thing is that she definitely cares about the Xenos.
Oh yeah. I wrote multiple times in my notes, all caps, she's empathizing with them.
Yeah.
Where she, like, when she has the conversation with Dame Sylvia, She talks to Joe. It's just like it's so obvious that she has a genuine care for them, and that's going to get quite complicated. It kind of almost in a weird juxtaposition with her talking to Dame Sylvia and being like, Curse told us that we shouldn't have feelings, and maybe he's right, and things like that. So, I mean, it could just be her picking and choosing which feelings to have and which to not.
Let me flip the question then. If Wendy has to choose between Zeno or Joe, do you think she's choosing Zeno? Because right now she is like looking at them like they're like kidnapped children that she feels the responsibility that she needs to take care of because they were done wrong to. Is that going to be more prevalent in her mind than, her brother? Don't know.
I could see her hesitating, and then Joe saying something along the lines of like,
An Ice Age quote?
that would be wild. They do this every year. But
I love
like
it.
maybe just along the lines of, like, how is it even a question? Or like something that would be like insulting. And it like, because she's still childlike, in her mind, and it being enough to kind of turn her away towards the Zeno. I feel like I could see that. I have no idea what it would be like in a straight decision. My gut reaction would be it's obviously Joe, but also that kind of feels like then what's the story?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I could see exactly what you're saying. It's going to come down to that moment where she needs to make a decision, and it will revolve on whatever Joe says to her or the Zeno mutters and chitters in her ear. Okay, so the last two scenes I have are Wendy and Dame Sylvia, their conversation. We kind of just talked about that. We can go into it more if you guys have any, but that's also triggered by Nibs and her scene, and she needs a reset. Adam says, do this, fix her, wipe her memory. That obviously is what leads Arthur to being fired, and Dame Sylvia just throwing him under the bus, saying, I'll do it. I'd like to believe it was for the love of the kids because she knew she would have got fired if she didn't do it. But still, rough look for Arthur there. And then, her conversation with Wendy where she doesn't remember anything, and it's almost like if Nibs was at, level 2 before the memory wipe, now she's going to be at like level 3 because she doesn't remember anything. So a pitfall again. So Nibs is a wild character.
The pacing of this show is so damn good that they didn't even waste a single scene of Nibs not knowing that her memory was wiped. Like the second she wakes up is the scene she finds out about it. So she didn't have to have that slow burn that I assumed they were going to milk over a couple episodes. So I love that. The show is one of the best paced seasons of TV like ever. It's so damn good. And I love that. But I don't know what that does for Nibs. I think she's still a wild card, and she still will if I had to guess, I think she's still going to kill Dame. Like she will be the one that kills her. Seems like their characters are too connected, and she might be legitimately mad for having her memories wiped and goes to her and tries to get them back or something, and then escalates to the point where she kills her. I can see that happening, but yeah, I don't know what Nibs is going to do besides be a wild card. It does seem that she's going to be an ally to Wendy no matter what, or at least won't be a negative villain against Wendy, which I like.
I like the call of her and Dame Sylvia kind of being on that preordained path together, because I will say that after like the pregnancy stuff and now she has no memories, I think it's totally reasonable for her character just to be there as a vehicle to get Wendy to a place where she distrusts Prodigy. And that's a totally reasonable function for her character to serve. I like if it's more than that, because I thought the stuff with her about the pregnancy and like her kind of identity thing was so interesting. The scenes of her like looking into the mirror and what that could have meant. And it seems like it's kind of gone away now because they've taken her memory. So if they can give her something else that's more interesting, I'm completely on board for that. Because I mean, I know even looking back now, it was easy to have such high hopes for all of them. But we have so many characters and we have 8 episodes. So it wasn't always going to be that like everyone plays a huge role. Some people were going to have to step aside in some ways, and we're kind of, we're culling the herd a little bit. Isaac's down for the count. I think Slightly and Smee have some, they obviously have a connection there. I feel like Smee might go down at the hands of Slightly, which would be, you know, kind of like this betrayal thing, which would be interesting to watch slightly, I think, navigate that emotionally. I like this call of Nibs and Dame Sylvia. Curly and Wendy have a rivalry that's on pause, a one-sided rivalry that's on pause, I guess is the best way to describe it, but that I'm sure might come back around. You know, Curly might be the one that is like on the side of the suits and the feds, let's say, of Prodigy. I could totally see that. You know, she just sees that as her opportunity to be in favor.
Yeah. The Lost Boys are so fun just because we have no idea, like exactly what you're saying. They seem like they're on a track, and I hope that's happening, but you have no idea what they're going to do. Like, I had thought Isaac was going to be like a right-hand man up there with Curly. I thought he was going to be Kirsch 2.0, and he's an idiot and dead now. So who knows what will happen. The only things that I didn't really understand / like with the Nibs storyline is what was like Dame Sylvia thinking that none of the Lost Boys were going to talk to Nibs again, and they were never going to find out that like she had a memory. What, like if Dame Sylvia told Wendy ahead of time, wouldn't that have just solved a bunch of issues? Because Wendy would be like, oh, okay, something was wrong, and you try to help her, and she's not going to go in and just reveal to Nibs right away that, yeah, your memory is gone. So
that's possible, but I guess the only thing that might have trumped logical thinking in this case is the fact that, just like her husband, if you're going to get fired and potentially killed and shot if you don't just comply with what they're telling you to do, like right this second. So I don't know if there was enough time to maneuver within the rules of erase her memories, like go get permission, or even just like permission in quotations. I think she was just doing it and figuring it out later so she can keep her job and stay close to the project and not die.
Yeah, I think her like thinking she could have done it differently is maybe a slightly like Monday morning quarterbacking.
Yeah.
I don't think they were going to have a meeting and be like, hey guys, here's what we're doing with Nibs.
Yeah, true.
Could have been reasonable. I think they could have all been like, oh, okay. And then they could have been like, oh, that's a side effect, you know. But yeah, it is what it is.
And then the other thing I didn't really understand is I know Adam gave the whole spiel about we need them on stage in 3 weeks to be talking to, you know, the Big Five, which that was a cool little drop because we knew that some event was going to come up where they were going to show off these hybrids, but the fact that it's going to be like a show to the Big Five, that'll be interesting. I don't know if we'll actually get there.
That ain't happening. We're not lasting 3 more weeks, baby. We lost containment in the secure lab. We're fucking on a roller coaster. We're at the top, and we're about to hit that point where there's absolutely no. We probably already hit the point where there's no.
Yeah, we're not getting there. But I didn't really understand why Adam thought it would be like still safe because they made it a point in that scene to say that they knew she had trauma and PTSD before they switched her over to the body. So even if you wipe just that little memory, like that's still there and she's still a liability. So I don't know. At that point, I was like, just take Nibs out of the equation, but Adam still wanted her. So
yeah, I have a parting question since I think we're pretty much at the end here. I feel great about this question because I don't know my answer as I'm asking it. So then you guys can answer first. So that's how that will work, which is since both organizations of the 5 that we're going to be talking about here being Yutani and Boy Cavalier's Prodigy, since they're both evil, like from an objective point of view, who are you rooting if this show ends up being multiple seasons, which I'm still hoping it could get multiple seasons, but I still want it to end with the like annihilation of Earth and everything. If they were to just set this up for a season 2 where we can just keep going with most of these characters, who do you want to win this season? Would you be rooting for Boy Cavalier and Kirsch or Yutani and Morrow? It feels like both have their pros. Yutani's a bigger name for the Alien franchise, but Kirsch and Boy Cavalier have the advantage, and like the microscope of the show is on their side of things. It could go either way, but what side are you rooting for?
I feel like I just gravitate towards Prodigy just because that's kind of where they dumped us in our lap. Even though we've seen Cavalier be such a prick to like other humans and just he thinks he's omnipotent and he's a giant POS. We haven't seen that from Yutani, but I'm sure if they showed us a little bit about some of the decisions she makes, she's making some similar like life is second to money and the mission type of claims. So yeah, I'll go with Wendy and Marcy and Prodigy. But honestly, I kind of want like both of them to kill some characters and then some of them will still live on. That's best case scenario.
I'll go with Yutani. I'll strap my wagon to the known quantity in the space. You know what you're getting after 100+ years of business in the industry. Morrow. I'll take Morrow over these little hybrid machines who are just little kids in these super smart bodies. And Cavaliers, just a little cocky upstart. It'd be nice to see him get humbled.
And I guess to split the difference, I'm gonna go Yutani side as well, but like it's really 51-49. Like it's so damn close in the middle because I love Kirsch, I love Wendy. Like I want that to work out on that side, but then I also want Weyland Yutani to end up just as powerful as they deserve to be for like the Alien franchise after this show is done. I just have no idea yet if this is set up, if this is going to be set up for multiple seasons.
Yeah. Shout out Enjoiner Rue.
Yeah.
AKA Yutani, AKA everyone should watch Foundation on Apple TV and then listen to our other show, The Core, all things Apple TV Plus.
I was lost there for a second, but
yeah,
I got there. You got me there.
How about Lady Amelisa?
Yep. I knew we were going to do that next.
Yeah, wheel time. A wheel of time. Yeah, a little wheel time for you. R.I.P.
Yeah. But I think that's all we got. So start the rock music and Kyle.
They're so damn good at the music. Like who pay these guys to be in every show ever?
This one was an immediate ad onto my phone. And I am arrogantly confident that I think Stinkfist by Tool is going to be my number one most listened to song of 2025. And I first got back on the Tool train, 7 months into the year? So it's going to be by far number one. I listen to it like 3 times a day.
The show changed your life, man.
It's so good. It's so good. All right. So we'll be back. That's going to wrap up episode 6, The Fly. We'll be back next week for episode 7, whatever it may be called. I'm sure the information's out there, but I don't have it on me right now. And so if you are enjoying the coverage, obviously step 1 is just to be returned next week. But in the meantime, you might have some homework here. So the first one is going to be maybe liking, subscribing on whatever you're listening or watching on. That's just the best way to kind of give us the boost in the almighty algorithm. The actual best way, though, is going to be to review the podcast. 5 stars is the best amount of stars possible in a review. So we would really appreciate that. And then the next piece of homework might be to, share with your friends, let other people know who are watching the TV show that there is other supplementary content out there and they can tune in as well. And then we can all be friends together in the Discord. That's the last piece of homework. BingetownTV.com/Discord if you want to join the week-long conversation, because we drop these episodes and you get an hour of conversation between us 3, but there are people that are smarter than us in the Discord, and we're talking throughout the whole week about all of these theories, about new things we're reading on the internet and all of those things. So it's a really, really good time, and I highly recommend it. And then maybe the 4th piece is going to be to check out the aforementioned The Core, all things Apple TV Plus. That's just the second podcast that we have over here on the Bingetown TV network. So this is Binge Empire. If you want to head over to The Core and see all the things that we've done, Severance, Silo, we just wrapped up Foundation season 3. Well, I guess that episode comes out tomorrow. If you're listening to this on Thursday, that episode will come out on Friday. And we are just in the mood for whatever our next show will be. Not entirely sure at the moment, but we know for sure we'll be covering Pluribus, which is coming in November. That is the creator of Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. So if you're into things like that, definitely go and check out The Core. And for the final time this episode, we are currently Binge Empire. And thank you so much for listening.